Delaware. Delaware has a new social equity bill that has been filed with key equity revisions to it.
Really?
Yeah. Marijuana Moments reporting. This came out of Kyle Yeager from a few days ago. Representative Ed Owensky is sponsoring legislation again. It would allow adults 21 and older to purchase and possess up to an ounce of cannabis, but no home grow.
Of course. So what is the bill? What is it legalizing? What is it enabling?
It says equity. They would legalize, and they would put the Marijuana Commission would go under their division of alcohol, tobacco, and enforcement in Delaware, and would be responsible for regulating the market and issuing business licenses for retail, cultivation, manufacture, and labs. Meaning, I don't see a transport. I don't see it. Well, if you want to do a nursery, you're going to have to get a cultivator license. Equity is also built into the scheme, though. After 19 months of the bill's enactment, regulators have to approve 30 retailer licenses, half of which would go to people identified as social equity applicants who have been disproportionately impacted by cannabis criminalization.
Do you know of a state, what do you call it, to prove that you're living there? Is that required for to be part of the Delaware market? Does it like that? Residency.
Yeah, well, no, and yes. And so, like, if you're going to get a social equity distinction, very often you can get it through a residency, long-time residency in a disproportionately impacted area. If you are a social equity applicant joining us and watching, smash some likes. I want to come up in your feed more often, and go over to cannabisindustrylawyer.com and see if you're qualified for the cannabis industry. But social equity applicants very often have the long-time residency. So they've lived for 5 out of the past 10 years in a disproportionately impacted area or an economically damaged area. I can't remember exactly what New Jersey called it. It wasn't specifically what Illinois called it or what Connecticut's called it, but wherever it kind of goes, and now it's coming in Delaware as well, there are these disproportionately impacted areas or these economically empowered areas that have been drawn up on maps. And if you live there, and then in some states, you also have to have income requirements. So like in Connecticut, you got to be like certified poor.
That's so crazy though. Like I just love how here's a social equity program. Here's for all you people that have been beat down and are supposedly broke now and not doing well. But we're gonna give you a chance. Here's your lottery ticket, but you still need another $500,000 behind you.
That can be tricky because those people can be very slippery to deal with and not always keep their intentions front and center. And it's a lot of lawsuits in the cannabis industry. A lot, a lot of the people that will win those licenses will end up in court because of the money.
Well, let's be honest. The equity applicant is a lot of times a different disenfranchised person who is easy to take advantage of. They're not savvy. They're not legally savvy. They're not book savvy. They're not whatever business savvy.
Right. They probably would have left then, like if they were, and they probably also be making more than the average income as opposed to like a fraction of the median income. Because if they were an astronaut, I'm sorry, I shouldn't use the word astronaut, like an entrepreneur or something like that, like a Richard Branson astronaut, they probably would have moved, from that area.
Yeah. And again, it's just like they're fishing for these, like in a barrel, fish in a barrel. They're poor. They want a chance to like succeed in life to create that generational wealth. But it's unfortunate, man.
Yeah. And then some people could take advantage. It's one of the reasons why I shout out to New Jersey, making sure that they have those financial source agreements rules. So there are certain rules that you have to have in Jersey so that it will not be something that is taking advantage of the social equity applicants. So hopefully that is built into the Delaware stuff. I'm not sure if they are that clear on it yet. So let's see. 15% excise tax on the cannabis sales. 7% of tax revenue goes to from the sales will go to the new Justice Reinvestment Fund. And the legislature is going to be tasked with appropriating the remaining revenue after administrative costs are covered. And that's going to support grants and focus on initiatives of jail diversion, workforce development, technical assistance for communities in economically disadvantaged and disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs. That's how they're putting that particular phrasing in Delaware, it seems.
I don't know how these, like in all these states, how is the disadvantaged person going to be given a chance? Like I shared with you before earlier this week in our Slack, Arizona brought in $1.2 billion in the last year.
Right.
Billion.
Right. Yeah, we're going to be reporting on that later on in the show. I mean, it's And then Arizona has a social equity program as well that's in litigation. We can
But
talk about that,
how these
at
poor
some
guys get
point.
involved though, man? Like, how do you create good rules for so the poor guy don't get fucked? I mean, I know Arizona creates that like we had to take the business class, right? Like,
Mhm.
I was there when Chris Martin and his wife had to go through it, and it was kind of dry and redundant. Like, I
Right,
really wish it showed them good business ethics instead of
right.
like just like
I thought it was a little like, paternalistic, like, here's a checkbook. You're like, this is a balance sheet,
yeah,
but yeah, they do need to know it because cannabis is high finance and, scallywags and whatnot. So, it's just one of those deals. But hey, man, one of the things that cannabis doesn't really have yet